I'm Ashy, and today I am going to be doing a sketchbook tour of this sketchbook. This was a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier, and took me a little bit longer than some of my other more recent sketchbooks. I am behind on getting these filmed and released. So this was used from March of 2024 to September of 2024. So this took me about 6 months to complete. So I wasn't painting as much in this sketchbook as I had been in others, but I also did a bunch of paintings on the same page in some of these. So that's part of it too. Now, in terms of the timeline, so life just kind of got in the way, and I honestly just kind of forgot to film these sketchbook tours. So I still want to go back and do it because I think there's value in seeing other people's progress and practice in addition to their finished works. So, some of these are going to be better than others. Some are just straight up learning moments. Some are straight up practice and complete messes. And I think there's a lot of value in seeing that because a lot of times you just see the finished work and it's a polished piece, and you're not always seeing the practice that goes on behind the scenes. And a lot of times there's multiple attempts on certain things before, we get it right. So I think it's valuable to see that. So I still wanted to put them out there, but I am going to try to be more diligent about getting them filmed and released as I actually finish them versus waiting and then, having to catch up. But this one was, again, from March 24 to September 24. So let's go ahead and dive in and do a tour of this sketchbook. So let's open this up. This is a 2 Arta watercolor sketchbook. It's 25% cotton paper, and I don't remember what size this is, maybe like 4x6-ish. The first kind of inside cover is compliments of my daughter. So one of them, I'm pretty sure is my younger one, drew on this first page here. So there's pretty much always at least one page in my sketchbooks that my kids have drawn on. So when I opened this up, I started with just like a loose floral composition here. I don't know, I think I painted it this way, but maybe this way. Anyway, so just kind of working with some like fall, wintry colors there, and trying to work on some loose florals. And then these were inspired. This one was inspired by something I saw online. So I did the Harry Potter glasses with just splotches behind it. So lots of splattering. And this was just line and wash. So I roughly sketched in the glasses and then painted them in. And then when I did this background, I thought it kind of looked like a map. So then I did a bunch of splatters and splotches of color, let them bleed into each other. And when it dried, I just outlined different areas to look like a map. So this is like my fantasy map of wherever. I guess I could name my new land, but yeah, so just some of the white space I circled and made it into maybe like little lakes. Some of these areas that were too solid, I just added some random shapes to break them up, but that was fun. This was just for a challenge about B corporations, which are corporations that are like environmentally minded. And so Winsor and Newton did a challenge to come up with an idea that celebrates B corporations. So that was what that was for. I like the little paint tube up here. I think that's cool. And then, the waterfall coming down, the little trees. Overall, I thought it was a cute little illustration. This was for a challenge to paint the girl with the pearl earring, so kind of a master study. So this was my first version of it. I liked certain areas, like I love the color of the background. I love some of the cauliflowers that I got here. Some areas aren't as successful. I like the pearl though. I think that looks really cool. Proportions are a little funky, but overall, I was pretty happy with this one. And then I wanted to do like an updated version. So I felt like in my first version, it kind of looked like she had a ponytail instead of just like a head covering thing. So I put her with the high blonde ponytail with the headband, and so she still is the girl with the pearl earring, but she's updated. So she's got kind of an updated shirt on and the headband, and I made her just real blonde. So that was a fun little challenge. Now, one thing is the front side of the paper is more textured, the back side is smoother, so you get kind of different effects based on each side, and it's not 100% cotton, so you know, you get different techniques that work better. So some of the shading looks kind of funky. It's got some like weird texture marks where I've overworked the paper and it's kind of pilled a bit. But overall, I thought that was a cool like update to the girl with the pearl earring. This is just based on a painting that I did of the brain with flowers on one side and then more like anatomically correct on the other. So I did the same thing for the lungs. And I mean, this side it's messy and kind of not like anatomically correct or anything, but this was just kind of a little study that I wanted to play with the ideas. I like how full the florals look over here, just like really busting full. Right now it's allergy season, so this brings on new meaning with not being able to breathe because of all the flowers, but you know, side note. This was just a sketch where I was working out kind of a composition for a painting that I wanted to do for one of my coworkers. So I just have the path going off into the distance. I wanted this to be like a lake lined with trees and then kind of a forest over here. So it's just a little sketch to figure out the composition. Here was just a super quick landscape. So this is whitewash and watercolor, and I was trying to mess with cloud textures, trying to get some different ideas. Clouds are hard. If you do too much, they look, you can really tell that you did too much. So like here, they look what I would consider overworked. So the paper's pilling a little bit. There's some areas that have actually, you know, the paper's been damaged, and then it's like all blended together here with the whitewash and the blue. It just, you know, it doesn't look loose and natural, which is a look. It just is not one that I prefer. And then I tried to get some like separation here. Maybe these were fields, so some separations in colors, but this was just super, super quick, loose landscape. This I did while I was at church, and this girl was sitting a row or two in front of me, and I liked her hair and her giant bow, so I drew it, and I liked the shading on this one using the Faber-Castell Pit Artist brush pens in different shades of gray. So they have warmer and cooler ones, darker and lighter. So I started with a fine liner though, and then just added some shading with the brush pens. This one I tried to just draw with the brush pen, just trying to get a variety of line weights. It isn't the most successful. This is a dinosaur thing at the zoo that my kids were sitting on. So, I mean, loose, illustrative, I guess, in that sense. The figures are okay. They're not great, but they're okay. They're very illustrative looking, kind of cartoony. But this just got wonky. So that could have been better, but it was a fun memory of them at the zoo and just their bright clothes and everything. So that was fun. This was when we had the eclipse. I took separate pictures of my kids, lots of pictures that day, because it was, I mean, very memorable. Not often do you get a full eclipse. So we kept the kids home from school and watched it together, and I just loved their poses, so I wanted to draw them and capture them. The proportions on some of them are a little bit wonky. Like, you know, her face looks a little funky, but that's okay. I still like it. I like how I kind of drew the outline of her shadow and then filled it in. I thought that was kind of cool, different idea. I like how the clouds turned out, the sun, you know, with the moon going, the shadow going across the sun was really cool. And yeah, I was really happy with that. I love the dry brushing on the grass here. I need to use dry brushing a little bit more effectively, I think, in my paintings. Sometimes I feel like there's too much white space showing, but then I look back in my sketchbook and I see all the white space and I love it. I also love this vignette kind of style, all the white space here, and I need to get better at using that also in my larger format paintings. I always just go right up to the edge and I forget that I want to do a vignette style. So I need to work on that. And that's something that, like, going back through sketchbooks, you can pick out things like, are these complete masterpieces? No, absolutely not. Is it a fun memory? Absolutely. But also there are things that I really like about these that I want to pull into some of my more finished artwork pieces. So going back through them every once in a while can help remind you that. So like here, I like her skin tones being purple. I think that that's, the shadows being purple looks cool. And the expressive line work, I like that. And how simplistic and loose the background is. It really makes the figures pop and then makes the eclipse pop. These I did while I was going through orientation for a new job. So you're just sitting for 2 days basically in a room with tons of people and they're talking through all the different things. And so I had my water bottle in front of me, so I just got out my sketchbook and started drawing my water bottle. And then I didn't want to get my paints out while I was in the session. Paper and pen, fine, but I didn't want to get the paints out. So I painted it later, but I really like this sketch. I think it's so cool and so expressive, and it really captures my water bottle well. So it's something that, like, would I normally sit down and paint a water bottle? Probably not. But was it sitting in front of me when I was bored? Yes, and I love it. So painting just everyday objects can be really fun sometimes. This I did at lunch on that same day. We had an hour break, so I just tried to do kind of in the vein of fashion sketching, but no sketching first, just straight watercolor this figure. And I mean, it's pretty successful, very loose, and shows movement. So I kind of like that one. Is it a masterpiece again? No, it's a sketchbook. It's not supposed to be a masterpiece, but I like that one. This I did initially as a value sketch, so it was all in grayscale, and I just wanted to kind of explore how to do value sketches and work on that a little bit. But then I really liked it, so I added watercolor on top of it. So some of the darkness is from that initial pencil sketch that I did. I did a lot of hatching to build up darkness in that value sketch. So like all of this was hatched, and obviously I layered watercolor on top of it, same with these areas. But I really like this, and then I turned this into a final painting as well, which I have a tutorial for actually on my channel, so I will link that in the description. If you like this painting, I do have a tutorial for a larger format version of it. So then here's another version of value sketching. So I was reading a book that I got from the library. I can't remember what book it was, but it was essentially like a composition painting book and not specific to watercolor. And it was talking about how you can have like paintings that are balanced between lights, mids, and darks. You can have paintings that are much heavier on the lights and maybe really light on the mids, like this one, and then lower but middle on the darks. So, and it can create different effects. So I chose to try to draw something that was a lot of highs, very little mids, and kind of medium darks. And then talking about the like primary shapes. So my primary shape was triangles. And then my contrasting shape was this rounded dome tint. So kind of, there's a lot of pieces in here that I was exploring. And then, cools and warms, that obviously goes into color when you choose to add color. And then the direction of the light. So the light was coming from here, angling down this way. So just a different kind of study exploring that. And this was just kind of an imaginary landscape that I made up. And then I did some figures. So this is my daughter, and just pictures that I chose from my camera roll on my phone. And I love this. I don't know how she learned to do the taco roll tongue. Like, she just did it one day while we were brushing her teeth. It's like, how do you do that? My older daughter can't do it, but she can. Anyway, so she was showing me, and I loved her pose here. And this painting I'm super happy with. Like, I love the hair. I think it looks a lot like her. I like the eyes, how they're not like all white and too bright, but they still have a highlight in them. So this sketch, this is like what I want for figures and portraits when I do it right. So I don't know how to replicate it every time though, it doesn't work, but I really like this one. And then I drew her again on the next page, and she was pointing up at a bubble, but I ran out of room for the bubble, so she's just pointing off the page. This one, not quite as good on the likeness, but I was still really happy with the sketch, and then I just never went back and painted it. So, you know, sometimes we leave things unfinished in our sketchbook. These were next, probably quite a few pages are from a challenge that was painting every day for a whole month, and it gave you prompts. So the first day was kind of like phoning it in. It was pattern. I don't know why this is here, but I just doodled little patterns. It, you know, it isn't the best. I wasn't really inspired by pattern. I don't know. I'm not like a pattern designer type person. It's not really my thing, and I don't even like wear a lot of patterns or anything, so I didn't know what to do, and that's what I came up with. This one was, I think, Rush, so I wanted, or something like that, I wanted to show lots of movement, so the blurring effects here on the clothes, the splatters, and then, you know, the super simple few brush stroke sky, not worrying about it. This was kind of a cool little illustration for me. I like this one. It's not, you know, perfect. It's not awesome, but I liked the movement and energy that I got in this. This, I don't remember all the prompts, sorry, but you know, this is like vegetable or garden or something, but I did this raised bed. This is just based on a picture that I found probably on Pinterest, and I liked these, like, I think there's some sort of cabbage. I liked that. I liked the pops of color here. I wanted to get a little bit more contrast into these with more whites. I added some white pastel pencil on top, but it just, I don't know, it didn't pop that much for me. So this one, I wasn't super happy with the execution of it. I like the raised bed part of it and the shadows there. The rest of it is okay. You know, it's bright, it's vivid. This one is Rust, and this one I thought was a really cool painting. I love the dark shadows on these poles coming up. I really liked that. And some of the shadows where, you know, the rust has peeled off. I think that's cool. I like the textures in the background. So this one I was really happy with, and I just love the colors, the contrast between the blues and the greens and the like reddish orange browns, basically. I thought that one turned out really good. And kind of the same thing as drawing the water bottle. Like, without that prompt, would I have ever drawn a rusty handrail? Probably not, but it turned out really cool. This one was Study. I do remember that. This was Study, and so I did a painting of my daughter just working on like writing in a spiral bound notebook. It's not the best likeness of her, but I think it captures the idea pretty well. I do like the hand. I like drawing hands, which is weird because I always felt like hands would be really hard, but I actually really like drawing hands. Also, you know, it looks like she's gonna be dumped out of the chair, but that's okay. The background's kind of cool too. I like the just random splotchy color in the background. This was Feather. Probably the prompt was feather. I don't know, maybe blue, but I just found a picture of a feather online, and I liked this one because there was the contrast between like the dull neutrals and then the more bright blues. I wish I would have gone a little bit brighter on the blues to really amp up that contrast more, but that's okay. I do like the softness of the texture in this part mixed with just like the washiness in the background, so that's kind of cool. This one's one of my favorites. This was Trunk, and so I didn't want to do elephant and I didn't want to do car, so I thought body. I'm a physical therapist, so trunk is, you know, the main torso part of the body. So I drew this male's torso, and then it looked good. I liked it. I liked the torso. I took pictures of it even. And then I was like, but it's kind of boring. like I liked the shading. I thought it was really cool. Well, it's kind of boring. So then I added this phoenix as like a vibrant tattoo on his back, and I just think it looks so cool. I really love that one. This is, I don't know what the prompt was, but it's Dobby's grave from Harry Potter. So he was buried in the sand dunes. Super quick, super like minimalistic here, really. I didn't do much on that one, but it was fun doing it still. But very easy, simple, quick painting. This one was Huddle. A group of hippos is called a huddle, I found out. So I painted hippos. And this I was actually really happy with. You can tell this paper, you know, didn't like a lot of layers. So like, especially on this baby where I was trying to do some lifting and trying to like work on some of these transitions, it looks a little bit damaged and overworked. But overall, like, I'm super happy with this painting. Hippos are such weird, cool animals. And so they were fun to paint, and I really liked the different poses that I got of the hippos. And here I decided to break it down into grids. So I have, I don't know, ticket or something. I did these golden scratch and win tickets. And this is just line and wash. I kind of ran out of room for the writing, but that's okay. This was spiral, and I did this shell. I actually like this shell quite a bit. I like the highlights on the left side of this. There are things that could have been done better, but some of the linear details are cool, and the shadows are kind of cool. This was like completely phoning it in. I did not try hard on this at all. I think it's a turnip, I think. I don't know, or a beet, or a radish. I have no idea, but I did not try hard on that at all. But I put it in just a stripe of color, soften the edge, blend it out. I don't know. It, you know, it's a vegetable. I don't know what the prompt was, but I did ballet shoes with this lady on point, and I was really happy with this one. I like the highlight here, especially on this shoe. I love that shiny highlight. This one's okay, but not as successful as this one. I do love the shadow on her foot here, and just kind of the extreme angle here on the foot. It really demonstrates like how strong and flexible ballerinas are. This is a painting of embroidery, basically. So I started with the line and then added some little dashes to look like shadows under the thread. And I think it was fairly successful. Is it the most exciting painting ever? No, but I do kind of like it. And it was really fun to do all those little dashes. I have no idea what the prompt was, but I did a continuous line drawing here of, or continuous-ish, I tried, but continuous-ish line drawing of the silhouette of a face, which I'm pretty happy with that shape, actually. I think it's a pretty successful shape, and then went into the leaves, like ideas sprouting in the mind. So I think that's a cool concept, and I do actually like that execution. Here I did a chocolate fountain. Again, I don't remember what the prompt was, but I thought this was really cool. I loved how I did the frame and then have the chocolate like spilling out the bottom and the stick coming out the side. I think that the shine on the chocolate was very successful. This back layer where it looks like translucent, like the light is shining through the back of the chocolate there, I think looks really cool. And some of the shadows around the chocolate that's going over the fruits. The fruits themselves I also really, really like. This painting overall, like I said, I just really like this painting. So, I mean, you can really tell that that's kiwi, there's raspberry, strawberry, and then some of them are more covered in chocolate, so you can't really tell. But I thought that that was a very successful painting. And then here I did another kind of grid just to fit more on a single page. So again, I don't remember what all of the prompts were, but I really liked this one where, you know, it just shows that close up of her singing into the microphone. And I think that this mouth and chin and little hint of a nose were very successful. Like, that just looks like very good proportions to me. So I like that one a lot. And the shine on the lips was cool. And I really like the microphone, this shadow here, between the lit and the shadowed side. I think this one I really like. This is a drawing based on some prompt, but of my daughter when she leveled up in gymnastics. So she got her little bronze medal when she went from bronze to silver in her gymnastics classes. And I like this painting a lot. It was really fun to draw just the wonky position that she was standing in, and then getting the shine on the medal I think was really cool. And then we'll come down to this one, which again, I don't know what the prompt was, but she was working on trying to do chin hangs on the bar. And I just love how it shows like how much effort she's really putting into it. I think you can really see that energy and effort coming across in the painting with, you know, the splatters, the background, and the pose also. And I like, you know, even the colors on her hair and the shadow here on her forearms from the bar. And I think that that's really successful. I also really love her hands and her foot. Again, I don't know, I like drawing hands and feet. They're fun. So this one, I really am happy with that painting. This one I do remember it was filter. And so I wanted one of those like underwater filters for cameras that takes, they're usually like red or pink, and so they take some of that greenish color out so that you can see more true colors under the water. So I put that murkiness in the, you know, outside the circle, and then inside the circle is bright and vivid. So I liked the concept of it. I don't necessarily love the painting. I don't, you know, the corals I wish were a little bit cleaner and just kind of, they're vivid, they're bright, but I just wish the shapes were a little bit cleaner. I don't remember what the prompt was, but I remember when I saw the prompt, I immediately thought of funhouse mirrors. So I did this painting of a funhouse mirror, and that's supposed to be my dad standing in front of the funhouse mirror. He's a big Nebraska fan, so I put him in a Nebraska shirt, and then just really exaggerated those proportions because that's the whole point of the funhouse mirror, right? And then I put his little feet poking out here, so like you can see just a little bit that he's standing in front of the mirror. So that was fun. It was really quick too. I didn't, you know, proportions didn't matter. It's a funhouse mirror, so I didn't work super hard on it, but it was very fun. Here was, I don't remember, maybe Prism was the prompt, but whatever it was, I immediately thought of the Pink Floyd album and the album art. So I just kind of, or it might have been Tidal. I think Tidal was the prompt. And so I was thinking like tidal wave, but then I thought about the app Tidal, that's what it was. And so I pulled up Tidal on my phone and then painted based on that. And I just wanted that, I guess, on the album art. I really like this painting. I don't know what the prompt was, but it's supposed to demonstrate, you know, chemical reactions. So this one's like dormant. It's not doing anything. I love the cylinder on all of them. I love the cylinders, the test tubes. I love the highlight that I got on the side, the really pale wash of gray, the oval at the top showing the opening. So I think these were all very successful. So this one is, you know, dormant. This one's starting to bubble up. So it goes from that liquid to more gassy, lighter, and this one's bubbling over. And I think that all the shadows in this bubbly over part look so cool. So I really enjoyed painting this one. It was really fun. Lifting off the highlights was really fun. And I was really happy that the paper didn't like get damaged when I lifted those. But yeah, so that was a very fun painting. Oops, wrong way. This was just a fun, you know, landscape with the northern lights. There are some areas that I really like of it, like this kind of feathery edge here, transitioning from the blue to the pink. It looks like that light is like shining out, so that's pretty cool. Same here, I like these like stripes coming down into the darker blue. The mountains, like I like this texture. The rest of it, meh, mountains are okay. I do like the reflections, how they're paler than the actual sky, and all of the horizontal lifting that I did here to make it look like Ripley. So that was successful, and the sky is okay. There's certain parts that I like. So that's something that I love, the Northern Lights. I really want to see the Northern Lights. It's on my bucket list. But I've painted the Northern Lights quite a bit. Okay, this one is, you know, when the Olympics were going on. This was for the prompts. I don't remember what the prompt was, but I saw this, you know, over and over, this image with the Eiffel Tower with the Olympic flag. So I really liked it and wanted to paint it. So I went super loose on the Eiffel Tower, really exaggerated that perspective of looking up at it. So the top is really short compared to the bottom, right? So it's like foreshortening. Everything on the bottom looks real big and heavy, and then it's like going off into the distance and shrinking very quickly. And this is just super loose, just X's. Like, I did not try to get the Eiffel Tower realistically. And then same with the background, just kind of threw in paint. Got some hard edges, which kind of look like clouds, so that's kind of cool. And then my focus was really on getting these rings and looking like the flag was kind of folding and rippling over them. And I think for the most part, it was successful. I like how it looks. Is it perfect? No, but I think, you know, it looks pretty cool, and this was really fun to do. This is my version of a character from the book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So if you've read that book, drop down in the comment something about, you know, put resand or something in the comments saying that you've read it and you liked it. But this is my version of resand. And he's supposed to kind of be based off of, I don't remember the actor's name, but he played Hook in Once Upon a Time. And so whenever I was reading the book, that's who I pictured as Resand, because they kind of have that same like morally gray vibe. If you haven't read the book, sorry, you're not gonna get this. But anyway, they have the same morally gray vibe. And I just kept thinking of him. So he's loosely based off of that. And overall, I was really happy with this portrait. It's kind of a mix of reality and imagination. So I thought it was really fun. And then these were based off of something that Christy Rice did a video about with a random color palette generator. So you just are supposed to, you know, hit the thing and it gives you a random color palette, and then you do a painting based off that. So this was actually a copy of her painting, basically. And so I just kind of did my rendition of that. And then I did another generation of colors and tried to do a portrait based on that. The proportions are a little bit wonky. I went straight in with watercolor, no sketching, and this is kind of an imaginary portrait here. And so like, I like her mouth a lot. I like the softness from the bottom lip to the teeth. I think that looks cool. I kind of, even though I know that doesn't look like an ear, it's kind of wonky, but I do like the earrings on the ear here. And I like this side of her hair with all the dry brushing. This side of her hair I don't like at all. But it was just kind of fun to put those colors from that random generator into a portrait. So here's two more paintings based on that same book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So this is the main character, Farah, and she's an artist. So I made her painting resand in her studio. And so this was actually, I used AI image generator and typed in what I was picturing, and then it popped out an image, and as I was painting it, I changed it significantly. And you know, all the AI, especially if you're doing figures in AI, it gets real wonky. So I changed it a lot, and this is just imagination. The canvas was blank in the AI image, but I just painted a male figure there, like she's in the process of painting him. But I wanted to get that just for some of the proportions of the building and just like a loose figure reference, and then adapted it based on that. And I really, again, I did this for some other paintings in this one, put in the frame and then went out of it for the main focal points of the painting. And so I really like how that turned out. So love that painting. This is another character, and I put her in front of a painting of the mountains that like maybe Feyre had painted that, and then now she's standing in front of this fireplace with that painting behind her. I loved how the fireplace turned out in the background. I think that looks so cool and just like vaguely impressionistic fireplace. I think that's cool. I like her necklace. I like the jewel parts, all the rings. So some of this painting I really liked. Her face, her eyes are a little bit too big. Her ears, I think, are sitting a little bit maybe too high. There are things that I don't like about the portrait, but overall, I think it's a really fun painting. And yeah, it reminds me of the book, so I like it. I think it accomplished what I wanted. This is just a little fantasy landscape. I think I painted the tree first, and then I painted everything else around it because I really liked the tree. And then I was like, well, I want to do a tree shadow. So then I put in a tree shadow, and then I put in the ground. So here again, I really like all the white space. I need to continue incorporating more white space into my larger scale finished paintings because I really like how it looks. I don't like the foreground basically at all. I could do without the water and this grass, but I like that. This is not great. This is way overworked. The paper actually started getting damaged because I was trying to blend and lift and it just was not working. But this is supposed to be my daughter, and yeah, it's not the best. I used some white to try to bring back in the whites on the eyes and the mouth. It just doesn't look great. Probably I'm okay with the dress. I think the dress looks kind of cool, and maybe her legs look okay, but the rest is not awesome. So I'm so hit or miss with portraits and figures. So I just need to keep practicing. More tree practice here. I love this one. Just some dry brushing, some just dabbing and kind of stippling, right? So like dabbing the brush on the page and splatter. But yeah, I think that one's a cool loose tree. This one is too much for me. It's too much repetitive strokes. I tried to use a fan brush to get that like weeping willow vibe. It's not horrid, but I would not use this technique again. Another portrait of my daughter that didn't turn out the best. So the colors I'm okay with. These are like light poles. We went to like a mirror maze thing, and they had one room that was just all mirrors and then had all these light pole things hanging down. So it was a real cool place. Lots of reflection of these pinks and purples. So I like how those turned out, how loose and how much white space there is in it to show that they're like shining. And then I tried to add the purples and pinks to her skin tone. It's not the best. I also did this sketch in a watercolor pencil. That's this yellow outline, that's watercolor pencil. And I did that to see if that could serve as kind of the base wash, but it's just too yellow. It's just not the right color. So I didn't like that. Learned that I did not like to do that. Yeah, I think I forgot. I did that on this one too. And then that's why she was so yellow. I was trying to add in different, colors to neutralize that yellow. So adding in the purples, and it just didn't work. So then this was me trying again to see if I could figure it out better. And it still didn't work. But I do like, the splatter and these poles, light poles coming down. This is a plant that I bought that's now dead. So I'm glad I painted it when it was alive. But the leaves were just really cool. So I just painted them in super loosely. And I like this painting. It's just so loose and so vibrant and messy, but it really gets the vibe of those pink and green leaves on that plant. And then we have just a very loose sunset over water. That one super fast, super streaky, which was the vibe I was going for. I like this cloud like in front of the sun. I like the the streakiness of this area through here. So I think that's pretty successful. These are like my go-to. I want a painting that's gonna be successful. Just sky, land, all flat, and just kind of using slightly different values to give the perception of depth. Those are usually successful for me, so that's an easy one if I just want to paint something. This was a much more developed sketch, just pencil sketch based on a picture that I found on Pinterest, and I just wanted to work on my portraits, and I think this one turned out wonderful. This is like what I wish all my portraits would look like, and I don't know why they don't, because clearly I can do it sometimes, but I don't know. Yeah, so very happy with that, and I need to keep practicing so they turn out like that every time. And then here's a not quite as successful portrait. So we went from very successful to moderately successful. Not horrible, but not great. So this is Taylor Swift. This was, I will say, like, it doesn't really look like Taylor Swift, but to be fair, the reference that I chose doesn't have her traditional like vibe. It's definitely a different look for her, especially with her hairstyle and everything. So it's not super far off, but it's not perfect. And I kind of, like, I kept altering parts of it to try to make it look right, and then it just looks messy. So it's not my favorite, but it's not the worst either. So just gotta keep working on those portraits. So that is this sketchbook. I really hope you enjoyed looking through this sketchbook and kind of talking through the successes and some learning opportunities from this one. So thank you so much for watching, and have an awesome day.